Hey everyone, good to be back here with you again tonight. I mentioned this is day 7, I think, of I've been challenging myself to come on each day for 10 days straight, and I haven't missed a day yet. It's kind of late here tonight. It's 8:30, but I just wanted to pop on and talk to you about one of the things that I've learned about widowed parenting so far, hosting the Widowed Parent podcast. The whole purpose of me hosting the podcast is to learn everything that I can about widowed parenting for myself, and then to share it with all of you guys in hopes that maybe it'll be helpful to some of you too. So, without further ado, I would like to talk to you about post-traumatic growth, which is the item for tonight. And I've actually this is kind of right on theme. I've just been working on finishing up the episode to post. I'm going to post it late tonight, this week's episode, and this is kind of an exciting time for the podcast. It's my first global interview, and it's with a woman who actually I talked to all the way from Dubai. And she lost her dad when she was in college, and has an interesting story about her life and how she actually feels like she ended up growing. And I think she said, I forget her words exactly, but she felt like she became a better person, I think she said, after her father died, or the motivation that she gained to try to prove to him that she could do better with her life. Hey Josie, good to see you. Thanks for joining. So look for my episode with Rhonda tomorrow. And tonight, though, I wanted to tell you about a little bit about episode 9, which I talked with Dr. Justin Yopp, who is at the University of North Carolina in the Cancer Center there. And he is the co-author of this book. It's called The Group, 7 Widowed Fathers Reimagine Life. And what happened was they had, he works at the Cancer Center there, and sadly, they had a number of moms in their practice who all died around the same time, leaving husbands and kids. And Justin and his colleague wanted to find some resources for these dads to help them, like some kind of dads group, and they couldn't find anything. And they were kind of surprised that there wasn't just a group that they could send them to. So they decided to start their own group. And they had the idea that they would meet, I don't know, 6 times or something, and they had some content planned, and pretty soon they realized that it was so valuable, the guys just, helping each other out, and, the people being in the same boat as each other, they found that helpful. And so they continued to facilitate, but the group met regularly for like years and years and years, and then they ended up writing a book, the 2 facilitators, about the stories of these 7 guys who were in their initial group. And one of the kind of themes in the book, they talked about, in the beginning, a lot of these dads, first of all, they felt like they were not, quote unquote, support group kind of guys in their language, but that they were kind of skeptical of this group, but they realized that they wanted all the help they could get in their new role as single dads of these kids. And they said, well, if I'm not going to go for myself, I'll go for my kids. I'll see what I can learn that'll help me with them. And they ended up really benefiting as well from being in the group. And some of the guys in the beginning apparently had this feeling, as they said, that the wrong parent died, that some of them felt that their families would have been much better off if they had been the ones that had died, and their wives would have done a much better job of raising the kids alone, then they felt completely unprepared to tackle that. And one of the things that Justin said is, over the course of the years of these guys meeting and getting to know one another and supporting one another, hey Katie, good to see you, thanks for joining, over the years, that the guys ended up coming around and saying, you know what, we can do this. We're, in the beginning we didn't know what we were doing, but we've got a better handle on it now. And they said that they actually grew in some unexpected ways, and that they felt like they were much closer to their kids as a result of this experience. They felt like they had become better parents. Not that they wanted, of course, any of this to happen. What they recognized with was that with the situation that they were in, that they felt like it was ended up the growth they had been beneficial to them. So, and then Justin talked about this idea of post-traumatic growth. Pardon me, which so a lot of people have heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's really interesting. I first came across this. Adam Grant was talking about it in the context of Option B, which is what he and Sheryl Sandberg have put together around grief and loss and support and those things. And the idea that, so as Adam Grant explains, that psychologists used to think that after some kind of trauma or tragedy that there were kind of two options, and one was to have some kind of negative outcome, to be, kind of a traumatic, like a PTSD or some kind of negative outcome, and the other was to kind of get back to where you were before, kind of baseline. And he said that psychologists now are realizing that there's actually a third option, which is to grow in unexpected ways, based on whatever trauma or tragedy happened. So I thought that was a really interesting point, and psychologists call that post-traumatic growth. And Justin talked about how you can actually have post-traumatic growth and PTSD together. It's not an either or. It's not exactly two sides of the same coin. But that there are, and as the guys in his book found, they wouldn't have predicted that they, got so much closer to their kids and grew and so forth based on their experience. So I thought that this was a really interesting concept, and it's one that I want to learn more about. I don't feel like I know everything about it that I want to know yet. And in particular, I'm interested in learning whether there are some ways to kind of foster post-traumatic growth, if that's possible. I mean, not that you can make someone grow, but as parents, is there anything that we can do to kind of maybe create the conditions that would potentially allow for that or encourage that or so forth? So I don't know. I'm still looking into that one, and as I learn some things, I'll share them with you guys. But anyway, I just wanted to come on and let you know about that topic, and I'll put the link in the comments to Justin's book, because I think it's a really good book. And certainly if you're watching this and you know anybody who's a widowed dad, I would for sure recommend send that book their way. Maybe just buy it and give it to them, or send them a link or whatever. In fact, I just last week I ran into 3 different people who said somebody in their circles had just become a widowed dad. And I recommended to all 3 of them that they get a hold of this book for them. So I think that's a good resource. But I found it interesting myself. The book is not just for dads, but there's a lot of good stuff on grief and loss and just general parenting and approaches and things. So again, it's called The Group, 7 Widowed Fathers Reimagine Life, and Justin Yopp, who is one of the authors, was my guest for episode 9, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again and hearing him speak. He's going to be at the National Alliance for Grieving Children. They're having a big conference in Utah this summer at Snowbird, which I've never been to. And I'm going to it, so I'm very excited. And he's going to be one of the keynote speakers. So that'll be fun to hear what he has to say. And it looks like the workshops, I tell you, there's so many interesting workshops. I mean, there's like 150 pages of speakers in the guide to look through and choose from. So I'm looking forward to learning everything I can from them and bringing some of those speakers. I'll be inviting as many as I can to be on the podcast and bring you what I'm learning from all of them. So anyway, all for now. I'll look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Okay, good night.